I come from a state, where they had this little place called the Alamo, and they declared victory or death. We're kind of into those slogans, man. It's like, live free or die, victory or death. Bring it.
Obviously, there were a number of problems with that Rick Perry speech on the Republican presidential campaign trail last fall, none of which I need to explain to you. It's as plain as the nose on your face, or as plain as the bottle of syrup in the governor's tender embrace at the end of the speech, when he just left to be alone with the syrup. But one of the more subtle between-the-lines problems with that speech is that it was delivered before an anti-gay group in New Hampshire that, like many anti-gay groups now, bases its anti-gay political arguments around a core pseudo-medical argument that being gay is a curable thing, that you can change your sexual orientation if you work on it. The core mainstream scientific justification for that argument has just been blown up by reporting from our next guest. Gabriel Arana is a reporter and web editor at the American Prospect. He's the new author of their new bombshell, My So-Called Ex-Gay Life. Mr. Arana, thanks very much for being here. It's nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Your story in the American Prospect included this revelation that Dr. Robert Spitzer wants to retract his famous 2001 study that supposedly proved that gay people can be cured of homosexuality if they want it enough. When you set out to write this story, did you know that was going to happen? Were you surprised by this revelation from Dr. Spitzer?
I really didn't know it was going to happen. I went to visit him at his home in Princeton, and I wanted to speak with him more generally about his place in the history of psychiatry. As you mentioned before the commercial break, he spearheaded the effort to declassify homosexuality as a mental illness in 1973, and then in 2001 dropped this bombshell that was very damaging to a lot of people. And so he's obviously an iconoclast, and I was curious about both his role in the 1973 declassification of homosexuality, and then what led him to undertake the 2001 study. And then as we spoke, he started to express regret for both having conducted his study and also how it had been used by the ex-gay movement.
So it was both about seeing the impact of how his study was used in the real world, but also some regret about the scientific basis of his findings?
That's right. After his study was published, he endured a barrage of criticism from his colleagues in the psychiatric and psychological communities, as well as from the gay rights movement. The most noteworthy of the criticisms was that he had recruited participants for his studies from ex-gay organizations, and then relied on these self-reports from patients of ex-gay therapists to conclude that change for at least a highly motivated group of gay people was possible. And in the intervening 11 years, he started to doubt the credibility of these people. And strangely enough, I was originally referred to his study as a success story, and now I'm married to a man, so you can see how that went.
Well, part of the reason this piece of yours in the American Prospect was so powerful is because of the personal story that you bring to it. I mean, your parents encouraged you to seek therapy, to try to become straight. Your therapist at the time was the head of one of these You Can Be Cured of Homosexuality organizations. You write really beautifully about why you agreed to the therapy, this person telling you you could make your parents happy, you could be normal. When you were undergoing that therapy, did you ever feel like it was working?
So I can answer that question in two parts. If the question is, did I ever feel that my sexual orientation was changing, the answer is no. So the way therapy works is that you're encouraged to view your sexuality as the result of gender misidentification. So in the case of gay men, in my case, I was not close enough with my father and too close with my mother. And you learn to interpret both your childhood, your past experiences, through that lens, and then talk about how that initial childhood trauma has a bearing on your life now. So I felt that I was understanding myself given this frame. But, obviously I wasn't coming to any true understanding. It's just I sort of learned to speak the language.
Well, the combination of your personal story and this revelation that you elicit from this doctor who has played such a key role, I think, in the whole, forgive the phrase, reorientation of anti-gay politics in America, is, A, it's a remarkable piece of reporting, but B, I think that it's sort of step one in what we're now going to see is a real change, a real reckoning in anti-gay politics. So congratulations on this as a scoop, Gabriel Arana, and thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, if you want to learn more about the original study and the retraction of the study and what might happen next, we've got some supporting materials about this posted at mattoblog.com. All right, best new thing in the world is really good tonight. I thought last night's was good about the kids and the chess, but tonight is maybe even better. Best new thing coming up next.